Hey there audio fans. In this video we're going to do a quick review of the UFOear UFO-112 triple driver hybrid earphones. How cool is this? This comes in the box, aluminium. It's really nice. It's made up of two parts. The inner part is a carry case, storage case, and the outer part is for your ear tips. And as you can see, there's a really nice, good selection of ear tips here. You got 2 pairs of foams, 3 pairs of these sort of straight edged tips, and 3 pairs of the rounded tips. I'm really stoked about these because they're huge and they're also good quality. The silicone is nice and soft. These fit my ears really well. These are probably my favorite ear tips of all time. I just love them. So that's the ear tip case. That just sits in there. And in here, I'm not doing an unboxing tonight, so I've done it already. Sort of a felt lining on the underside of the lid, and they fit in there easily, including the cable, of course. So yeah, that's nice. It's a nice touch. Keep that there. You can keep that on your desk or on your table or whatever. Interesting. And then if you want to take them somewhere, you can easily put that in a bag. It will fit in a pocket. It's a little bit large for a pocket carry, but it's doable, certainly doable. They are made of acrylic and they're 3D printed. So these earpieces are actually one single piece of acrylic. There's no seams, there's no 2 halves glued together or anything. So it's really, really nice build. They're also extremely lightweight, very light. You can see the dual bore nozzle there. Let's have a quick look at this cable while we're here too. So yeah, it's an 8-strand braided cable. It's got no microphonics. It's got the metal Y split with the chin slider. It's straight 3.5mm plug with some branding on it. And up here, preformed ear guides that hold their shape over your ears, and 2-pin connectors, just like that. Now the price for these comes in at around $360. I know it's not cheap. It's around the same price as the Fearless S6 RUI, which I'll get to in a minute. And judging from the way it performs, the build, the accessories, I think it's worth it. I think it's well worth the price. It's almost as good. Well, we'll get to that. So yeah, build is excellent. Comfort is fantastic. I can wear these all day. No worries at all. The quality of the reviews that have been done for this, not really well. I don't agree with them for the most part. And one in particular was done by fucking Flippy McFlipperson, the flipper fuck. And if you don't know what a flipper is, it's someone who gets solicits review samples and then turns around and sells them for profit. And that's a big no-no in the industry. And yeah, that's just dodgy as fuck. I'll come over and flip your grandma, you flippy bitch. Apart from that, other reviews are talking about these being overly bright, having sibilance, having not enough bass. I don't know what people are talking about. These are definitely not bright. They're less bright than the FiiO FH7. They're less bright than the TFZ number 3, which people are raving about at the moment. You can see in the graph, I'll pop the graph up, the frequency response is very linear across the board from the sub bass right up to the little peak in the upper mid range, and then it sort of drops off a little bit in the treble, falls off a bit in the treble, But you can tell just by looking at the graph. These are not a bright earphone. They're sort of clear and crisp sounding. They're not bright. There's no sibilance. Whatever. I don't agree with what others have said. Now, about that sound, the bass has got fantastic extension, but it has a very conservative and mature level of bass. So bass notes are full-bodied, they've got a nice weight, they've got a really nice natural decay, but the level of the bass is quite tame. It's not a big bassy sound. I mean, it sounds powerful, but it doesn't sound loud, if you know what I mean. But sub bass gets a nice rumble going. It'll certainly rumble in your ears. The mid-range is fairly neutral. Good tone throughout the mid-range. Great instrument separation. Pretty good layering. It's sort of positioned further back. It's like the stage is positioned a bit further back from the listener, and you just lose a little bit of intimacy and engagement in that way. But the tone of the mid-range is really good. Articulation and clarity, everything is all there, but they're just lacking a little bit of density. But apart from that, the mid-range is really nice. Having the mid-range positioned back like that does make the stage feel bigger. But like I said, you do lose a little bit of that intimacy and immediacy from that as an effect of that. The treble is, I would call it crisp and smooth. The treble has excellent extension. Hi-hats and cymbals, they've got a really nice sheen, they've got a natural decay. Generally, when people talk about brightness, you're talking about an upper mid-range or treble, accentuated treble. And you can tell from the graph, these have got a little peak at 2 kilohertz or just before 2 kilohertz. Nothing that's out of line, it's linear across the board. And then the treble starts to fall off. So these are definitely not bright like people have been saying. Here we have Shifts by Catatonia. Now this isn't a particularly demanding song. It sounds pretty good on just about anything. But there's a lively little hi-hat going on, hi-hat action going on. It's sort of like a like this. And with some IEMs, you sort of only hear each second or third hi-hat note, the accentuated ones. Really frustrating when you're listening for them and you don't hear them because there's a dip somewhere in the frequency response, or the earphone is too dark or just rubbish or whatever. But yeah, that's one thing I look out for in this song. We Got Used to Us by Riverside from the Shrine of New Generation Slaves album. This song has got a really funky bass line. It's got this rhythmic rolling bass line that just sounds really dope and sounds fantastic with the 112s here. Nice and punchy, nice and rhythmic, great timing. On top of that, the vocals in this song are quite emotive, and they don't get washed out at all by the bass. The bass is, like I said before, it's very tame, and the mids ride just above the bass. So the lyrics are clear, the piano is really nice. Good song, should check it out. And finally, we've got Everything Is Changing by Anneke van Giersbergen. Really nice song. It's got this consistent bass line with really long sort of bass notes throughout the whole song, and some IEMs can get a little bit carried away with that and sort of wash out the vocals, but that doesn't happen with this one. It's also a fairly busy track, and and lesser IEMs can sort of get congested and get sort of tripped up. It's a pretty good test for instrument separation and layering, this song. And also, it's also a good test for sort of core upper mid-range levels. If it were bright or overly accentuated like some others have suggested, then this would be uncomfortable to listen to, and that's not the case at all. We've got the UFO FH7 here. Now, if I pop the graph up here, you'll see that the frequency response of these two IEMs is very similar. But there are some major differences. First of all, there are differences in the build. This one's obviously bigger, it's a lot heavier. This is a magnesium alloy, I think, and these are acrylic, so these are really light. These are pretty hefty. When it comes to the sound, everything is a little bit more upfront with the FH7. The bass hits a bit harder, although it looks really close on the graphs. The bass is brought more forward. The whole stage is brought more forward compared to the 112. So everything's a bit more intimate, more density, more up close. So starting with the bass, then the mid-range, the vocals, they're kind of up near you as well. It's a more engaging performance. The FH7 here also has slightly better instrument separation, although the 112s here have a bigger soundstage. And when we get to the treble, the FH7 is just a little bit more forward in the treble. I wouldn't call, well, this one can sort of get a little bright. This one does not. So yeah, both great earphones. This one will cost you about $100 more. Then onto the Fearless S6 RUI. These two are around the same price. This one, the S6 RUI, has 6 drivers. Surprise, surprise. This has only got 3, but this has got a dynamic bass driver, and you can really tell the difference. You can really tell the difference in the bass reproduction. Although this one, the Fearless, does have really good bass for a multi-BA IEM. The bass is fantastic, but it just can't match the dynamic drivers. The 112 has got better bass extension, and it's got a real powerful low grumbling sub bass. This one comes pretty close, but can't quite match it. Just like the UFO FH7, the S6 RUI stage positioning is more forward than this one. So again, it can be a little bit more engaging. Bigger bass on the 112, more mid bass on this one, and again more up front, so it's up closer, it's a bit more forward. Same with the mid-range. This one has a bit more fullness and more body in the lower mid-range. They both kind of got a pretty similar treble as well. If I remember correctly, this has a little bit more, but only by a little. Although these do have a warm tonality due to that sort of accentuated mid bass, they also have got a fairly lively treble, which is where they get their detail and articulation, their clarity from. They both are quite comparable in sound quality. I still do prefer this just a little bit because of that stage positioning. If the stage was a little bit more forward on this would be really hard to beat, especially with that killer bass, something that balanced armature drivers just still cannot quite do as well. So that's about it, guys. There are some shortcomings with this one, but they perform really, really well. And I think this is going to be one company that we should definitely keep an eye on, because they're going to do cool things if they keep making stuff like this. So that's it for this video. Thanks for sticking around. Give it a like if you liked it. If you want to see more reviews and more content like this, hit that subscribe button. And until the next video, I'll catch you later.